Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most astonishing reports emerging from the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. A story that captures not only the new face of modern warfare, but also the precision, patience, and technological evolution that is redefining how wars are fought. The event we're talking about is when 77 Ukrainian drones allegedly waited for a Russian missile factory to go into full production mode, working overtime, before unleashing a coordinated strike that obliterated key parts of the facility. Whether or not every detail of this story is fully verified, what it represents is a dramatic turning point in drone warfare, intelligence coordination, and Ukraine's growing reach inside Russia. From the beginning of the conflict, Ukraine understood that traditional land battles would never be enough to counter Russia's massive industrial base and production of missiles. Instead of focusing only on defending territory, Ukraine began developing what many analysts now call the long arm of precision sabotage. Over the course of the war, Ukrainian forces transitioned from using small quadcopters to long-range jet-powered drones capable of reaching deep inside Russian territory. The latest strike, reportedly involving 77 drones, was said to target a facility in Udmurtia, hundreds of kilometers beyond the border, where the Russian military produces critical missile systems and components. According to several military observers, Ukraine's intelligence network has become remarkably sophisticated. Using a mix of satellite data, intercepted communications, and inside human intelligence from workers or sympathizers inside Russia, Ukraine's Special Operations Forces identified the exact working schedules of certain factories. The rumor that drones waited for overtime likely originated from an operational strategy where the strike was timed for maximum impact. When the production lines were active, power systems were loaded, and workers were on site. The intent was not just to destroy machinery, but to paralyze morale and send a message that nowhere inside Russia is completely safe. In the days leading up to the attack, Russian social media channels reportedly showed unusual air defense activity in Udmurtia and Tatarstan. Residents posted videos of streaks in the night sky, followed by bright flashes and loud explosions. Russian state media quickly labeled them as attempted Ukrainian terrorist attacks, and claimed that most drones were intercepted. However, satellite imagery and independent analysis later revealed significant fire damage around an industrial complex identified as the Kupol plant, known for manufacturing Tor and Oza air defense systems. It was one of the deepest Ukrainian strikes ever recorded, around 1,300 kilometers from the border. The strike itself highlighted a major weakness in Russia's internal defense system. Despite deploying layers of radar and anti-air missiles, Russia's air defense network has difficulty detecting small, low-flying drones made from composite materials. These drones travel in swarms, fly at varying altitudes, and can confuse radar signatures by coming in from multiple directions. By the time Russian radar picked up the incoming swarm, the drones had already breached the defensive envelope. The fact that so many drones made it that far suggests a highly coordinated and intelligent mission plan. Many analysts have called this a new form of strategic harassment, using low-cost drones to force the enemy to divert massive resources for air defense. Ukraine's use of 77 drones, if accurate, demonstrates its growing production capacity and tactical innovation. Instead of relying on Western-supplied missiles or aircraft, Ukraine has built an indigenous drone army, mixing military-grade UAV with modified commercial types. The attack also reveals Ukraine's ability to synchronize dozens of autonomous systems under one mission control, guided by AI-driven algorithms and satellite data links. After the explosion, images surfaced online showing a large fire at the industrial site. Smoke columns stretched hundreds of meters high. The next morning, Russian emergency services arrived, and official statements downplayed the incident as a localized fire caused by a short circuit. But as analysts examined satellite photos, it became clear that several roof sections had collapsed, and the factory's main power substation was destroyed. Independent investigators pointed out burn marks on surrounding warehouses and a crater consistent with an aerial impact. It was almost impossible to hide the scale of destruction. For Ukraine, the symbolism was powerful. Hitting a deep, inland Russian military facility carried not only strategic weight but psychological impact. It told Russian citizens that their defense infrastructure was vulnerable. It also undermined Moscow's claim that its homeland was impenetrable. For months, Russian officials had assured the public that any Ukrainian drone entering Russian airspace would be intercepted. This strike shattered that illusion. Suddenly, cities like Kazan, Nizhny Novgorod, and Yekaterinburg realized they might not be out of reach. Western intelligence agencies quietly acknowledged the attack as one of Ukraine's boldest moves. It demonstrated that Ukrainian long-range drone projects, some powered by small jet engines, were operational. Many of these drones are believed to be domestically produced in secret facilities across Ukraine, often disguised as civilian industrial projects. The cost of a single Ukrainian long-range drone can be under $100,000, while the Russian missiles used to shoot them down cost 10 times more. The economics of drone warfare heavily favor the attacker. Meanwhile, Russian commentators reacted with fury and confusion. Pro-Kremlin bloggers accused the defense ministry of incompetence, saying that Russia's vast air defense network was failing to protect vital infrastructure. Some even suggested corruption and negligence, implying that local officials ignored previous warnings about vulnerable plants. On the other hand, Russian state media framed the incident as a sign of Ukrainian desperation, claiming that Ukraine was targeting civilian workers. But that argument rang hollow, since the Kyiv plant has long been tied to military production. The timing of the strike was also significant. It reportedly occurred on a night when the plant was working extended shifts to meet missile production quotas after months of heavy Russian bombardments in Ukraine. If Ukrainian intelligence knew that, it means Kyiv had deep insight into Russian manufacturing schedules. The notion that drones waited for overtime doesn't necessarily mean literal loitering in the sky. Likely means the operation was timed for that specific production window. Military planners often choose attack timings to maximize disruption, and hitting during high activity periods ensures not just physical damage but production delays and psychological shock. Observers compared this operation to past Ukrainian attacks on Russian oil refineries and airbases. However, unlike those strikes, which usually caused temporary fuel shortages or destroyed parked aircraft, this one targeted the industrial heart of Russia's weapons supply chain. If production at that missile plant slows down even by a few weeks, it can ripple across Russia's entire military logistics system. Each destroyed circuit board, each burned sensor, translates into fewer missiles available for frontline bombardment. In the days that followed, Ukraine maintained official silence. Kyiv neither confirmed nor denied the attack, consistent with its standard policy on operations inside Russia. Ukrainian officials only said that military facilities inside aggressor territory remain legitimate targets. That statement was enough to send a clear message. Ukraine's reach is growing, and its patience is strategic. Unlike impulsive missile launches, these strikes are planned weeks or even months in advance, relying on a web of intelligence and logistics far beyond the battlefield. International reaction was mixed. Western countries, while publicly cautious, privately admired Ukraine's ingenuity. Defense analysts in London and Washington noted that the attack showcased how a country with limited resources could level the playing field using asymmetric tactics. Meanwhile, Moscow protested to the United Nations, calling the strike an act of terrorism. However, that argument was largely ignored, as Russia itself continues to bombard Ukrainian cities and energy facilities almost daily. The incident thus exposed a deep hypocrisy in Russia's diplomatic posture. What makes this event even more significant is the shift in warfare philosophy it represents. Traditional wars rely on big armies, tanks, and air superiority. But Ukraine has rewritten the rulebook. Drones have become its artillery, intelligence, and psychological weapon combined. They not only destroy targets, they create constant uncertainty. Every Russian base, depot, or factory now has to assume it could be next. The cost of defending such vast territory becomes nearly impossible. In other words, drones are doing to Russia what guerrilla warfare once did to empires, forcing overextension. As the news spread, online communities celebrated what they saw as a symbol of resilience and innovation. Ukrainian engineers and volunteers posted messages about how every drone, every component, every engine was built with collective effort. In workshops across Ukraine, ordinary citizens have turned into defense manufacturers, 3D printing parts, testing designs, and experimenting with AI guidance systems. This grassroots innovation is one reason Ukraine has survived against a much larger adversary. Each successful long-range strike proves that modern war is not only about firepower, it's about creativity and adaptability. From the Russian perspective, the attack triggered another wave of defensive adjustments. Regional governors ordered new radar installations and drone hunting systems. Mobile anti-air units were redeployed from border areas to protect industrial hubs deep inside the country. But this shift only stretches Russian defenses thinner, reducing coverage along active front lines. Ukrainian strategists understand this perfectly. By forcing Russia to defend everywhere, Ukraine increases its own freedom to strike anywhere. It's a chess game, and drones are the new pawns capable of checkmating kings. Several think tanks later analyzed the possible number 77. While symbolic, the number likely represents multiple waves of drones, launched in intervals to confuse air defenses. First waves typically carry decoys or electronic jammers, while later waves carry explosives. The strategy mirrors swarm intelligence. Drones communicate autonomously to adjust course and avoid detection. This kind of operational sophistication indicates external training or AI-assisted planning. Some experts believe Western technology, though not officially supplied, inspired Ukraine's homemade systems. The long-term consequence of such strikes could reshape how nations design their defense infrastructure. Static factories, energy grids, and missile plants have become easy targets for cheap drones. The only sustainable solution would be decentralization, moving production into smaller, dispersed units. Ironically, this kind of adaptation could take Russia years, giving Ukraine valuable breathing room. In the meantime, each successful deep strike reinforces Kyiv's deterrence strategy. The message is simple. If Russia attacks Ukraine's cities, Ukraine can strike Russia's war machine at its source. For the Russian workforce, morale has suffered. Reports indicate that after the strike, several factories across Russia briefly halted night shifts out of fear. Insurance rates for industrial facilities skyrocketed, and regional governments had to issue new security protocols. The psychological effect of knowing that drones can appear without warning has started to weigh heavily on civilians and engineers alike. It's a silent form of pressure, one that erodes the sense of safety far from the battlefield. As the dust settled, both sides returned to the rhythm of war. Russia continued launching missiles, while Ukraine kept experimenting with newer, faster drones. But this single event, whether involving 77 drones exactly or not, symbolized a new stage. Ukraine had shown that even the heart of Russia's defense industry was vulnerable. For many, it felt like a moment of poetic justice. The tools once built to destroy Ukraine were now being destroyed by Ukraine's own innovation. The world watched carefully. Military academies began studying this and similar operations as case studies in future warfare. It's no longer about who has the largest army, but who adapts faster. Swarm technology, AI coordination, and long-range autonomy will define the next generation of conflict. Ukraine, through necessity, has become the global laboratory for these ideas. Every drone that takes off is not just a weapon, it's a data point, an experiment that informs the next design. In the grand scheme, the alleged 77 drone attack represents something more profound than a single explosion. It's the manifestation of resilience, intelligence, and transformation. It reflects a nation that refuses to surrender and has learned to turn innovation into defense. For Russia, it's a warning that industrial might alone cannot guarantee safety in an age of digital warfare. For the rest of the world, it's a lesson that wars of the future will be fought less by soldiers and more by coders, engineers, and machines guided by information rather than brute force. Hello, everyone. If you've made it this far, you understand that this isn't just about one factory or one night. It's about how technology, timing, and intelligence have reshaped modern combat. Whether the figure of 77 drones is literal or symbolic, the message is clear. Patience, planning, and precision can outweigh sheer power. In this new era, war has become a contest of minds and machines. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more updates, and don't forget to subscribe for the latest breakdowns on the Russia-Ukraine war and the changing nature of modern warfare.